Hey everyone, Sweet Johnny Cage here. Welcome back to my guide for Darksiders 3 on Apocalyptic difficulty. This is part 5 of the guide. Probably be around 9 parts, I'm thinking, at this stage. In this part, we are going to rescue 3 humans. We're going to get 1 Invigoration Core, 1 Rejuvenation Core. We're going to upgrade Rider's Mercy for the first of 3 times. We're going to pick up Salvation, which is a boomerang weapon. And we're going to end it all by defeating the Angelic Champion inside of the Bonelands. So yeah, without further ado, let's get started. If this is your first time joining me on this apocalyptic playthrough and these guides, the way I do this is a little bit different than my trophy guides. I just play the game and provide commentary. So I have played through this already. I'm just talking over a recording. I'm not actually playing while doing this. But we're going to start off with the stats that you just saw there. It should be 7, 8, and 1 in the levels. And then we have a +5 whip as well as an upgraded Lance of Scorn. Those are really the only weapons I ever upgrade. I find the Storm Relic, or Storm Hollow rather, to be super effective. So yeah, I just always keep that upgraded. So the entirety of this video is going to take place in the Bonelands, or at least it's going to show our journey to the Bonelands, and then we're going to defeat the first boss there. Oddly enough, when I started doing this guide, I wasn't really sure where I was going because I kind of forgot how to get to the Bonelands. This is my second playthrough, but I just kind of forgot the route. So I do go up here and I do get a demonic artifact, and normally I would just cut this out, but for like completion's sake, I do want to show that I pick up this treasure now. And when I do go to the Scar, which is the area that this leads to, I will make mention of that again, that I do pick up that demonic artifact at that point. But anyway, from the crossroads, Vulgar Plinth, we're just going to go to our right and go through this little hole. And then we are going to use the Flame Hollow to jump up here. And this is basically the official start of our journey. To go up that wall, you do need the Stasis Hollow, which you don't get until a bit later. So we will go through this first part of the Bonelands, and then we will do the second part where we fight Lust, and then the part after that will be Gluttony. So that's 6, 7. Part 8 will be Gluttony. I guess part 9 will be Wrath, and the end, maybe. Just thinking. But anyway, so we're going to hop up here. We're going to pick up a small Lurcher Cluster. And then what I recommend doing is making your way to the end here, and then taking out this enemy here, but doing it pretty quickly. And the reason for that is because when you drop down, a lot of these small guys aggro. So taking this guy out quickly is kind of your best bet. Maybe I changed my mind. I do change my mind. Oh no, I tried to change my mind and got screwed. The platforming in this game, I've said this in I think every single part of this guide, the platforming in this game is a little sketchy, especially when it comes to grabbing onto ledges. I am playing this on patch 1.04, so just keep that in mind. Maybe in 1.05 it's been fixed. I haven't actually touched this game in 1.05. I beat it on 1.03 and then again on 1.04. So yeah, we're going to pick up a Thorn Shard after we kill all those guys, and we're going to keep proceeding. I'm not going to immediately go down here. If I do, it's just to pick up that treasure. You'll have to forgive me. I've been sick the past couple weeks, so I wasn't able to like finish these guides as quickly as I wanted to. So it's been a while since I've seen this footage, let alone play it. So yeah, just keep that in mind. Sorry about that. We're gonna kill a couple of the lesser dudes up here, and then we're gonna kill this big guy. He does have a boss form that we'll see later on in the game once we get the Stasis Hollow, and we want to go after one of the final Essence of a Chosen. That boss is called Agony, so I'm not really sure if these guys are called something like that. Excuse me for yawning. It's about 10 o'clock or 10:30 here, so doing this a little late. But we're gonna fight this guy. Like always, he does deal a ton of damage. These guys are never super easy. They don't stagger. You hit them once, they don't care. They will keep on trucking. So just be very, very careful when fighting these guys. As always, the Storm Hollow's Wrath attack, incredibly effective. it never ceases to be effective in this game. But yeah, so we're going to pick up a medium lurcher cluster. Going to attempt to jump onto this rock that has nothing on it. I just want to make sure. And then we're going to proceed into, I think it's the north part. North End. Jesus. I don't know why I couldn't remember the name of that. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and proceed into North End. And there's a Vulgrim plinth right here. Or maybe this is South End. Yeah, I think this is South End, actually. North End is by the church. I could be completely confused. Trust me, I like this game. I've played it a lot, but some of the names of the places I just can't remember right now for some reason. So this is our introduction, or rather, our reintroduction to the Predator enemies. There was one at the very beginning, and they become a little bit more prevalent in this section of the world. There are quite a few of them. I call them Predator enemies because they literally make a predator clicking sound when you are near them. It's like there's really no other way to say that, but it's true. We're going to go ahead and kill this enemy up here, and then what I'm going to attempt to do is, I'm actually going to fail this, but this is completely possible. At least it was in 1.04. You can use the Flame Hollow to get all the way up on this ledge, and I don't know why it failed right there, or even right there, but you can jump to this ledge, and Fury will hook onto it, and you can proceed down that route if you don't want to wait until you have the Force Hollow, but I do come back later with the Force Hollow, and I do complete that. So the enemies in here, two of these big guys. It is possible to fight this one on the left for a little while before the other one comes running at you. So just do your best to deal as much damage to him as possible before the other guy wakes up. And then, yeah, just, try to build up as much wrath as you can so you can use the Storm Hollow's wrath attack. It really just eats these guys up for breakfast, especially if it's upgraded. Yeah, so just gotta take them out. They're slow. It takes a while. They got a ton of health. There's nothing too interesting to say about them. But that's kind of all there is. You just want to take them out, and then they are guarding a few treasures, which we will also pick up. So just keep that in mind. Now, what's kind of funny here is that I'm doing this when I don't actually have to. The crawl space that we're going to go into, you actually can't. You can't complete this section here in the ground, or in this lower part. You can't complete the section until you have the Stasis Hollow. I kind of forgot that as I was fighting those guys. So I will go through the crawl space, and there is a treasure in there, but we will have to come back once I have the Stasis Hollow. And again, if this is the first part of my guides that you're watching for Darksiders 3, every time I get a new hollow, I do a fair bit of backtracking. So, there are all these places here in Eden, I think the world. No, definitely not Eden. Haven. There are all these parts of Haven where, you're sort of shown like a doorway that you can't open, or like a wall that you can't break just yet. And then you have to come back when you have the other hollows, which is something that I really, really like. So, when I get a new hollow, I do all that backtracking. I open up all those doors. At the end of that part of the guide. Only because I don't want to, I played through this game on Apocalyptic difficulty with the intention of recording for a guide. So I tried to play through in an organized fashion. And the way I did it was, I didn't want to do one video just called backtracking, because then it's kind of confusing what could be in that video, So, every time I get a new hollow, I do the backtracking in that video. This way it's kind of obvious. Like, hey, I got the Force Hollow, now I can open up all these Force doors, So yeah, just keep that in mind. That's how these guides will flow. Over here, this is actually kind of another mistake I make. This path up here leads to your first chunk of Adamantine. And the chunk of Adamantine is what's needed to upgrade a weapon to +10. Now, with that said, you can't actually pick up the chunk or get to the chunk until you have the Force Hollow. And the reason for that is because, we'll do all this platforming and all this whip swinging but we can't actually open the door without the Force Hollow that that the chunk is effectively hidden behind. Now, be very careful. There's a predator enemy behind this bus, and it's a little hard to hear him for some reason. It's usually easy to hear them, but for whatever reason, this one guy I can't. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna proceed up these cliffs. There are another couple small dudes here. So yeah, just go ahead and take care of them. Another one will jump down. And then you can pick up your sliver. Yep, there they go. Two of them jump down. I don't know why I was so delayed, but pick up your sliver and just keep going. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to take out this bigger enemy at the end. But keep in mind that there are a lot of smaller enemies that aggro when you get near him, as you can see here. Now, if you decide to, try to play it smart and go up that log on the right, everything will aggro to you, including the big dude at the end. So even though he's not really anywhere near you, because you aggro the small guys on the log, you will, in effect, aggro him, but it doesn't work the other way around. I don't really get it, but that's the way it is. So, this guy can teleport. This should not be, if you're playing along with these guides, if you're playing alongside them, this will not be your first encounter with these enemies. We saw these guys once we got the Storm Hollow and the backtracking in Haven. So yeah, it shouldn't necessarily be your first encounter with them, but if it is, they teleport, as clearly demonstrated by what he was doing. He does teleport, but he is guarding an Angelic Artifact. So just be very careful of the teleporting. It can be pretty tricky. But we do want to equip the Flame Hollow, double jump up here, and then we are able to latch on with Arrow Whip. And then we're going to pick up a treasure in this blown out apartment. It's a Fragment of Adamantine. Here we are going to once again double jump up there. We actually probably don't need to flame jump, but I do anyway. And then we're going to use our whip to cross. And then this is pretty tricky. You want to flame jump across onto this fire escape and pick up a Luminous Visage. Now, I am going to show you what's beyond this door, or beyond this ledge, but we can't actually go any further than this because it is blocked by some force barnacles. I don't really know if that's the correct phrase. They look like barnacles, so I call them barnacles. But yeah, this is doorway here. Now, with that said, I did try to get into the ventilation shaft from the other side because I think you can exit from that ventilation shaft. I do believe that acts as an exit. I was trying to get in. In the process, though, I did open up this flame cluster, or whatever you want to call it, and inside is a medium lurcher cluster. So, beyond that door is your first chunk of adamantine. So when you get the Force Hollow, come back here, and yeah, just go ahead and open that up, and there's a chunk towards the end of that path, a few rooms later. But we're going to proceed anyway because we don't have it. But there's a few more enemies down this path here, including a club-wielding enemy. He also has a spike. And be very careful not to aggro the teleporting guy behind him. Otherwise, this becomes kind of crazy if you're dealing with the club guy as well as the teleporting guy. I don't own the guide. I don't have a bestiary for this game, so I don't know the official monster names. Sorry about that. But yes, you just want to kill him, and then we can proceed. If you go down here, there are a few other treasures. We can proceed all the way through this crawl space, unlike the other one. So go ahead and do that. Just gonna take a quick drink. And there is a human in here, as well as a sliver of adamantine. So this is the first of 3 humans in this part that we are going to rescue. Yeah, so just go ahead, crawl back through the crawl space. And then, sorry for the sniffles, I've been sick, like I said. And now we are going to do some Barnacle Puzzles with the bugs who eat the stuff on the ground and their butts glow a certain color. Since these are purple walls, we're going to get purple goo for the bugs to eat. So we'll take care of this last predator guy, and then I will pick up the treasure that he was guarding. This is basically the other alleyway from where that bus was, as well as the first teleporting guy. So this is the other alleyway. In case you want to try to skip the enemies, you can do it that way. I find that they aggro to you no matter what. So it's not really worth skipping or trying to skip and kind of putting yourself into a tight alleyway. But in any event, we're going to go ahead and slap the venom-looking thing on the ceiling. It'll drop the purple goo, and then we're going to clear out the rest of the room and use the bugs to open the walls. Now, there are a couple of fang enemies in here. One of them is going to pop out right here. Yeah, I tried to, like, hit it before it came out to stagger, but it didn't work. But he does drop a Thorn Shard. So go ahead and pick that up. But be very careful of the other one. But once you kill that, we can open up this flame sack on the ceiling. Get a small treasure. These things never guard anything, substantial. So, you know, if you miss them, it's really not a big deal. It usually just houses, like, maybe a shard, I think is in, like, one or two of them. But it's almost always, like, a cluster of souls. So it's really nothing, like, it's not like a weapon is hidden in there, or, you know, a human or a rejuvenation core or anything of like, consequence. But we have two walls to open with these bugs. So the first one we're going to do is this one over here. So you can throw it onto that wall. It will bust open, and inside is a human as well as a treasure. So we're going to go ahead and pick that up. It's a large literature cluster. We will rescue our second of 3 humans for this section of the guide. So once the human is rescued, proceed back into the room, and now we're going to blow up the other wall. Yeah, there's not a ton to say. The bugs will sometimes automatically fly to the goop. Doesn't always happen. Depends on, like, the path they take when they first spawn. But go ahead and throw it, blow up the wall, and then in here is a red-eye enemy that is quite tough. These guys deal a ton of damage. All their attacks have a pretty decent wind-up, but, you know, they deal a ton. They have a ton of health. Yeah, as you can see there, and, like, they have a delayed overhead swing that tracks you, so it can be pretty dangerous. But as you can see there, in 2 hits, you know, I'm getting screwed. So just try to stay on top of them. Your hits do stagger them unless they're winding up into an attack like the red attacks. But, you know, just deal with it, and eventually it'll fall. It does drop a treasure on its own. I kind of forget what it is, but we'll see. So he's guarding a medium lurcher cluster, as well as a demonic artifact. And then he drops a Fragment of Adamantine. So on this run, if you saw the sort of table of contents inventory list at the beginning of the video, you'll see that we're going to get a lot of medium lurcher clusters, as well as a lot of Fragment of Adamantine. It's like the 2 most commonly dropped items. So we're going to get a decent amount of upgrade materials. So just keep, like, try to keep, like, a mental note of how many Fragments of Adamantine you need to upgrade your weapon at a certain point, because there's no harm in going back to Ulthane at the Maker's Forge and you know, spending, you know, your fragments or your shards or whatever to upgrade your weapons. Upgrading your weapons in this game is extremely beneficial, more so than even leveling up. Luckily in this game they require 2 different currencies, so you know, upgrading your weapons just costs materials, whereas leveling up costs souls. It's not both like in some games. But yeah, like, don't ever think you need to, like, save on to any adamantine. The only use for it is upgrading your weapons. So just keep that in mind. Now, what we're going to find here after we visit this Vulgrim plant, I believe I'm going to level up at this one. I have like 5,700 souls. I think it'd be pretty beneficial if I did. Oh, no, I guess not. Okay. What we're going to do here is we are going to encounter Pride for the very first time. And for some reason, I just forgot to skip this cutscene. I realized I could cut it out, but I just think Pride is one of the coolest bosses in the game. Unfortunately, she's one of the final ones you face. You face her, I think, yeah, right before the final boss. So Pride is like your 7th sin, and then you have the final boss. Pride is a cool fight. It's really the only time you ever get to go to heaven. I think it's in heaven, at least. You have to take a portal to get there. But that portal will always be around, you know, once it spawns. But Pride will not fight you until you have defeated the other 6 sins. So, you know, once you defeat Wrath in the Scar, if that's the last one you fight, which I think it has to be, go ahead and come back here to North End and proceed through the portal, and then Pride will finally fight you. So what we can do now we can exit the church and do some more treasure grabbing. There's a guy on the wall here, and this this area is extremely effective for building your Havoc meter. And the reason for that is because as long as this guy is on the wall, he will spawn skeletons over and over and over. It's one of the only infinitely spawning enemies in the game that you can build meter off of. And he spawns them 2 or 3 at a time, so it's pretty effective. So if you're looking to build your Havoc meter for that trophy, I think it's Beast Mode. Is the name of that trophy, if I remember correctly. What I recommend doing is coming here to build your meter, and then going to West End or East End, whichever is the section where you start the game after you fight Envy, and then just rounding up all the small enemies there. I think there's like 15 or 16 of them. Bring them to the parking garage, kill them, and then come back here to rebuild your meter. It's just like a really effective way of doing it. I do have like a dedicated guide for that on this channel, so check out the Darksiders playlist to find that video. But yeah, it's just like the most effective way of doing it, in my opinion. There may have been a newer discovery, so be sure to look around. But that's the method I recommend. But once he dies, you can head over to this corner here and pick up an Angelic Artifact. But we're gonna pick up a few other treasures, as well as going to the roof of the church. And this is one of the few instances where I'm ashamed to say I miss a treasure that I just straight up didn't know existed. I do get it in a later part of this playthrough. Truth be told, I can't actually remember when. It may be at the very end when I come back to fight Pride. But yeah, I do miss a treasure up here. So I'll tell you where it is, but we're gonna pick up a healing shard there, and then I am gonna hop down here to check if there's anything else. But you can't open that pod until you get until you get Salvation, which is the boomerang that we will get. But you also need the Force Hollow, and the Force Hollow allows you to open all the purple stuff in the game. So yeah, just keep that in mind, that those purple things that you see on the ceiling, keep in mind where they are. Try to jot that down. Again, just like the red ones, they don't house anything special. It's just some souls. But if you're going for like a full completion, and you want to open absolutely everything, come back when you have Salvation and the Force Hollow. So the treasure I'm forgetting is actually on the other side of the railing, to my right now. You can actually drop down there and get a treasure. Now, something interesting here is that Wrath and the Watcher have a chat about this area. And she says, "Do you see an outpost of angels?" I don't know what she's looking at right now. At all. Like, I don't know. And what she's looking at right now is the Bonelands, which is cool. Like, being able to see, sections of a world from other parts is awesome. That's great world building, and I think Darksiders does a great job of that. But she starts talking about an area that, like, you just can't see. Like, I don't know what she's talking about, an outpost for angels. Like, there's no indication that even exists. So it's just weird. I wonder if it's different on PC, but I can't imagine it is. Like, it'd be just completely different assets down there. But in any case, you want to head back into the church, burn down the spider web, and then the church bell will come crashing down and break open the floor. And now we can start proceeding to the Bonelands in earnest. Jumping down here, we will enter into the church tomb. But first, I think we're going to level up. Yeah, that is what we're doing. Like I said, I do cut out like the loading times and all that, but I also want you to like be aware of how strong I am at any given point of the game. So I try to leave in the level ups as well as the oh my god, the upgrades. Sorry, it's now 10:40, so it's getting a little late. But yeah, I do like to leave in all the upgrades and everything, just so you know how strong I am at any given point. But since we rescued those 2 humans, we're now up to 10, I think. Or it might be 11 at this point. Unfortunately, there's no internal counter. Actually, I can tell you exactly how many we're at. So we're going to rescue 3 in this section. We rescued none in part 1. We rescued, so that's 2. I'm going through my inventory list now. 2, 3, 7, It's 9. That can't be right. Huh, that's weird. I only have 9 on my chart. I wonder if I left one out in one part on the inventory list. I hope not. Well, anyway, we should have 10 at this point, so we just got our first upgrade to Rider's Mercy. And like I said in the last part, you know, every 5 humans that you rescue, you want to go visit Ulthane, and he'll give you an upgrade. And by the end of the game, it does 4 different things for you. It buffs 4 different aspects of you. So it's just incredibly useful. And it's a nice reward for rescuing humans rather than just like another box to take. Like, you're actually getting a progressive bonus, you know, as you do it. So definitely keep checking back whenever it feels like you've rescued 5 or more. And of course, there are 20 total humans in this game. So yeah, just keep that in mind. So in this tomb, there's a lot of skeletons that spawn. None of them are incredibly challenging or anything. But this next room is quite tough. And the reason it's quite tough is because there are 3 archers, as well as some sword-wielding skeletons, and a red-eye enemy hidden in the corner. Now, the treasure you see in the distance there, behind that portcullis, you will not be able to get that until the future, when you're in the underwater area of Darksiders 3, of this world. When you're going after Gluttony, you will find a cave that leads you into that room from the other side. So don't go looking for a switch in this room. It's not here. You can't get there until you're in the underwater section of the game, and then a cave leads back up to that room. So, what we're going to do, we're going to kill these guys, and then I'm actually going to die in this room, believe it or not. It seems like I have it under control right now, but I don't. These enemies deal a ton of damage, which is rough. But there's a red-eye enemy, like I said, at the end of this room. Now, coincidentally, he doesn't drop anything, at least nothing of major consequence. He is guarding a large lurcher cluster. But I do die, so you know, now we're going to transition to this piece of footage. And oh my god, one hit just, one shot. Jesus, it's like devastating to see that happen. But we are going to take care of this guy, and then I'm going to show you exactly what he drops. But there's like nothing else in that alcove, so you can sort of just like loot the treasure he's barely guarding and run away. Most of these things are like either guarding another room, or you know, they're at least posing some sort of threat to the item. This guy is just like sleeping in front of it, so it's really nothing crazy. He drops a Fragment of Adamantine. Okay, so it's you know, that's an upgrade material. Nothing to scoff at. You know, you're gonna need it. But yeah, like I said, that treasure you can't get until 2 parts from now. So the next part of this guide will be me fighting Lust, and then the part after that will be me going after Gluttony and getting into that cave. So if this is part 5, I guess, that'll be part 7. You can get into that room. So come back for part 7 if you're looking for that room. That was one of the few rooms that I was left like struggling to look for, but somebody on Reset Era actually helped me out, as well as how to get to the other side of the bridge in the Hollows. That was another thing that I couldn't figure out on my own. There's a lot of caverns to go back to. Once you're in the underwater cavern, it surprisingly leads to a lot of places. But as you can tell, we have clearly come into a new area, and you know, things look a little bit different here. So now we're transitioning into the Bonelands. Oddly enough, this is another place where you come out at from the underwater cavern once you fight Gluttony and finish up that room. Or that area, you will come out right here at the other side of that barnacle door, or barnacled door, I should say. So the other side of that is from the underwater caves. So this area here loops into quite a lot of places, which is cool. Again, it's like stuff that I love about games in general, and I think Darksiders does a pretty good job. Now you have a couple choices. You can either swing across, or you can take the tornadoes from the entrance. I just take the tornadoes from the entrance just to show you like the full path. But they both lead to the exact same place. It's kind of weird that they had that. I don't really get it. It's like, I don't know why this first tornado's here, really. I guess to maybe carry you across if you exit on the other side. But Anyway, we're going to hop up here using the final Tempest or Storm or whatever you want to call it. Tornado. Not really tornado, I guess. More just like an air current. Pick up the artifact and then make sure to smash open this flame thing. Once you get Salvation, these things are a lot easier to open. You just throw the boomerang at it when it's powered up by whatever color you need it to be. It just becomes a lot easier. You don't have to like switch things. I guess you just still have to switch, but you don't have to like charge up a jump and like deal with the camera. It just gets a lot easier, and they are targetable. This is the other side of that section. So now we're gonna proceed further into this entryway into the Bonelands. Now, the enemy that we're gonna come up to here, there are a few of these in the game, and I actually forget what they're called, like a Mursk or a Minsk, or what are these things called? A Mansk. There we go. Thanks, Watcher. So the Mansks are really cool. They're enemies that don't attack you, but you attack them to move them. So you kind of abuse them to like create paths for you. Just a little morbid and a little sick, but I still think they're cool. I just think they have a cool design. It's something with like a lot of teeth and like tentacles and stuff. It's usually something that like creeps me out. There's like a certain phobia for that, where like if there are like mouths in the wrong place, or like it's related to like holes. But yeah, I have like that phobia or whatever that's called. It's one of the very few things that like creeps me out, like makes shiver down my spine. But this room you do want to be a little bit careful in. So we have some crabs, but at the same time, there is one of the big enemies that we fought a few times in the Nether, and he drops in eventually. So that cave there, you can't open until you get the Force Hollow, so keep that in mind. Eventually this guy's going to drop down. Yeah, you can hear him now. There he is. Yeah, I don't really know where he drops down from. It's kind of weird. He just like shows up. That cave over there, you can see it in the distance on the left. You do need the Force Hollow to open that up. And in there, I believe, is a demonic artifact. So, like I said, when I get the Force Hollow, I'll do a bunch of backtracking. Like, show you where everything is that you can get with the Force Hollow at that point. But yeah, he does drop a sliver of adamantine. I came back for it much later, so... or rather, like, I came back for it, but it just, like, took me so much time to figure out what he dropped and find it, because it was in, like, a white, or, like, a white-yellow part of the room. So I do make a cut there, but it is a sliver of adamantine, so just keep that in mind. So now we are in the Bonelands for real. And the Bonelands is a really interesting part of the game. There are some really cool enemies in here. It is quite long. There are two sections of it with two bosses. You have the Angelic Defender, or Angelic Champion, whatever it's called, as well as Lust. The first half of the Bonelands is quite easy. There are a couple of cool puzzles in it that we will solve together. And the enemy design in this area is just really sick. Like, you have that guy like floating on the chair back there. Now, unfortunately, I'm going to recommend something I never really recommend, and that's just ignoring the enemies. These guys, like, the guy in the chair especially does a ton of damage, but has an obnoxious amount of health that it's just, like, not even worth fighting him. You can just run from him. Now, this Grim Reaper looking dude summons enemies into this area, so you do want to kill him. Now, luckily, you only have to kill him once, and he will never come back again. So just kill him once, get rid of him, and then proceed as normal. But yeah, like this dude in the chair is just a pain in the ass. Just not worth fighting. So what I recommend is just running away. And like, that's one of the very few times I will ever tell you to just ignore an enemy and run away. Yeah, it's nothing I really condone, but like, it's just not worth it. He doesn't really give you much reward for what you're doing against him. He doesn't drop any items. His soul reward is terrible. It's just not fun to play against him. But you do want to break open those boxes, proceed into this little vent shaft, and pick up the demonic artifact in here. There is another section of this room that we can go into right now. But first, we want to kill this red eye enemy who's guarding, I believe, an invigoration core. So the guy in the chair has moved away. So now we have like ample opportunity to kill the regular enemies in here. You know, these sword guys actually remind me of War from the first game. They have like a similar attack style. This red eye enemy, very, very careful. Like all red eye enemies, deals just a ton of damage. Really, really, like, geez, he just drained half my life. Really, really tough enemies, so just keep that in mind. Something that I did notice when fighting this guy is that I'll do a forward dodge, but he will move before my attack actually begins to connect. Like, the forward momentum of his up slash carried him so far that it actually ignored my launcher. So just strange stuff in this game. But he drops a piece of adamantine, and he is guarding an invigoration core, so very important that you pick that up. So, interestingly, I'm not sure if this has been fixed in patch 1.05, but almost every single time that I stood on that platform there, my sound would cut out. And the only way to fix it was to completely exit the game. And it was all sound on my PlayStation that would get cut out. So even if I went back to the menu, I would have no sound. And the audio levels on my capture card would be maxed out, even though there was no sound at all. Very strange. I don't understand why it happened. But yeah, let me know if you're playing this on 1.05 or even a newer patch, let me know if that still happens. It was one of the only places in the game where I could guarantee something to happen. It was one of the only bugs I was ever able to replicate. There was one pretty early on too that I was always able to replicate. Well, I'm forgetting now what it was. But yeah, this game was pretty buggy upon release, and this audio cutting bug was one of those issues. These hives that spawn these bugs, you really can't do much against them now. But once you get salvation, you can throw the boomerang right at the nests, and it will blow them up. So keep that in mind when you get salvation. It's quite useful against the bugs. As you can see, they're just knocking right out. I do miss another treasure here somehow, and I apologize for that. On the right here, you'll see them in a second. There are some fuel tank or big cylinders, and there's a treasure on one of them. So what you're supposed to do is actually jump over this ledge and hop across the cylinders. I missed it somehow. Very sorry for that. I think when I'm doing my backtracking, I do claim it. I don't think it's anything great. Excuse me. I don't think it's anything crazy. But yeah, there is a treasure to the right there. Major apologies that I missed it. Yeah, no excuse. I just kind of forgot about it. There's a medium lurcher cluster inside of this vent. And now we are going to get into some crazy action and see the current state of the Bonelands and see how the angels are faring against the demons. So we're going to pick up this treasure here, the medium lurcher clump, and then we're going to reach another Vulgrim plinth. We're going to see what he has to say for himself. We're going to level up a couple times. One of the things in this game that I consistently forget is that you have to spend your attribute points. So, I spent all those leveling up, never actually leveled up. It's just something I always forget. So now that we've leveled up, we can proceed into this area. So, in the Bonelands, the angels will fight the demons in every room of this section here. When you kill or defeat the Angelic Defender, the Angelic Champion, the boss of this section, the angels will no longer be hostile towards you. And what that means is, if you return to this section, they will still fight the demons, and they can still die from the demons. They will no longer take damage from you, and they will no longer try to deal damage to you. So it's just a cool little effect. You don't really see it in action after the pack is made, unless you come back to this section. There's very limited interaction between angels and demons after that point, which is kind of weird, considering that's a really cool thing that happens. It just sort of gets forgotten, or I don't want to say ignored. It just doesn't get shown. It's weird. Maybe it was meant as an Easter egg. If you decided to backtrack or something and go looking for some more treasure. In any case, we're going to use this next Mansk, and we're going to push it right by that waterfall. It's another purple cluster that you can't open right now, but go ahead and slap this guy across this river. And when you reach the top of this platform, you'll be greeted by a griffin, or what was once a griffin. So I do take a death against it, which is why we have that transition there. The griffin is on top of this waterfall over here to the right. I just said to put the mance by the waterfall. Obviously, it's not correct. Just put him in the water near the wall. And then the griffin is up here on the waterfall. Now, the griffins are... they're not exactly like super challenging. They just deal a ton of damage to you, like most things on Apocalyptic difficulty, right? They are able to spit out a beam, so be on the lookout for that. But if you stay close to them, then you can just dodge their swipes, and it becomes much more manageable. But they can back up. They could do their jump attack, as you just saw there, is quite devastating. So be very careful when that's happening. You can dodge it if you time it correctly. I just didn't. But like all good video games, you gotta go behind the waterfall for some treasure. There's a Fragment of Adamantine back there. And then you want to follow this path so we can get into the warehouse. There are a few lesser enemies out here. Take care of them. And then we can go and do some cool puzzle solving inside of this warehouse. We're also going to rescue our third human in here in a little bit. So pick up the lurcher cache, and then we can go back around for the main entrance. Yeah, so head in. We're going to jump over the train first. And then eventually we're going to bring a mask out here and put it into that pit. So it's a pretty cool like little puzzle sequence that we're going to go ahead and solve. But there are a lot of angels and demons in here, so you have a choice. You can either back up, let them fight each other. If you're kind of unlucky, the angels will just aggro to you, and they'll just ignore these guys. It has happened to me a bunch of times. Their AI isn't the best, and they're also kind of weak. So if you want to, you can just kill them yourself. They die in like 2 hits. Yeah, they have like no health. And doing so, like killing them, affects nothing. Like it won't make it so you can't make the pact later. There's no, yes, you can see the human on the other side of that fence. There's no like repercussions for even doing that. So if you want to kill them, kill them. You're gonna have to. You know, doing so has no repercussions. The demons, seemingly, will always aggro to you until hit by an angel. So it's a weird interaction there. I often like to let them fight it out, see who's going to win. If an angel kills a demon and vice versa, you do not get their souls. So it's more rewarding for you to kill them all yourself. But you can always just let them like weaken each other. As you can see there, the demon killed one of the angels, and he still has half his health. So yeah, they're just beasts. Quite literally. They have the mark of the beast, and they are beasts. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and finish this off. We're going to kill them now. Yeah, see the angel like had 1 hit left. They're so weak. Pick up a Wrath Shard, and we're also going to pick up a Medium Lurcher Cluster. I am going to burn this away. This is the main path we want to take, but I'm not ready to do so yet. So as you can see there, we have the Mansk. And it's obvious that we're going to push it over. So I guess I am going to push it over right now. Oh no, I don't know why I couldn't make up my mind right there. We're going to push it over, but we still have a couple rooms to explore in here. But we'll push it over for now. And then that is the Mansk that we're actually going to bring outside with us. So it has a nice purpose. So we're going to kill this demon, or this angel rather. What's funny is that, not even funny, is that when you make the deal with the angels, they start to help you, but then all the angels you find after that are undead. So they're all sort of screwed. This world is not in good shape, straight up. So this room here has a wall that you can climb when you get the Force Hollow. So remember that and come back here. I will backtrack to this room, but that is another room that I sort of forgot on my first playthrough, and I was like scrambling to find more demonic artifacts so I could upgrade my weapons and get that last trophy. The trophy you get for upgrading 5 weapons to maximum, or 5 enhancements to maximum. I was like scrambling to find demonic artifacts, and that was one of the last ones that I found. I completely forgotten about that room. Believe it or not, the last one that I found was in Haven, and it was in like a pretty obvious location, very close to the beginning of the game, that I just totally missed. I mean, that's just how things go sometimes, right? But yeah, we're almost done with this section of the warehouse here. Just a few more enemies to kill before we can actually solve the puzzle. There is another demon up there. He will drop down eventually. But these armored demons just take a lot of hits to deal with. Enemies that block are really frustrating. You know, it's just so boring when they block. You know, especially since you can't block yourself. It's just sort of lame. I just realized, like, now I'm thinking about it. So, this game gets, this series, I should say, gets compared to Dark Souls a lot. And, I mean, everything in 2018 gets compared to Dark Souls. And, you know, like Breath of the Wild is compared to Dark Souls. Like, it's crazy. For some reason, that guy died in one hit. I'm not really sure the cause for that. This angel here is guarding a rejuvenation core, I believe. So we're going to kill him. But anyway, like I was saying, yeah, rejuvenation core, great. So like I was saying, this series gets compared to Dark Souls a lot. And I've seen people compare Darksiders 3 in particular to Bloodborne. And I think that's like, if you want to track the series in a parallel fashion, yeah, I guess that could be true. You know, like, this is the more active combat game. You know, there's no blocking involved. But maybe I'm just completely wrong, but so you can't block in Bloodborne with the exception of the wooden shield, which is a joke of an item, and the Enoch shield, or no, the lock shield that you get in the DLC. So with the exception of those two, you can't block. And the lock shield does not block physical attacks well. It only blocks arcane well. And it's used for a very specific purpose in the Living Failures fight. So we're going to rescue our third human here, get the treasure she has. And then that's the last human for this section. But the difference I'm thinking of right now is that in Bloodborne, nothing blocks you. I'm like trying to go through my head. Think of all the enemies in Bloodborne. Nothing blocks you. Nothing in that game has a shield. Nothing in that game uses a weapon as a shield. Am I right in thinking that? I think I am. I'm going to assume I am. So yeah, I'm realizing now that, like, enemies that can block you in this game ruin the pace of this game. Like, it's just not fun to get blocked in this game because you can't do the same thing. Man, it's funny, I didn't realize that until just now. Anyway, back to Darksiders. We're gonna use these purple bugs to blow up these 3 walls. The wall on the left has a treasure in it. I think it's an artifact. It could be something even less. But yeah, just, you gotta be really quick with it. As you can see there, it was about to explode in my hand. So you gotta be very quick with it. But you can throw it a little bit above the door and get it open. Yeah, it's an Angelic Artifact, so it is worth it to do that. But now we can push the Mansk all the way outside. For some reason, if you get too close to this thing when you go to whip it, to move it, it won't move. So you gotta like stand in like a really specific spot when you get behind it. Luckily, you only have to hit it from that position like once or twice in the game. And the Mansk doesn't come back after the Bonelands, which is a little bittersweet. I like these guys a lot, and I like when enemies become part of puzzles. Now, in this lake here, there is a treasure, so be sure to sink to the bottom and get that. It's right over here. So go ahead and pick that up. It's a medium lurcher cluster. Excuse me. Take a big yawn. It's now 11:06. So now we can go and fight the boss of this section. As you can tell by the time, you know, we're almost done here. So there's a couple more things to take care of. Yeah, so the Watcher, these slow walk and talk things are just the worst. They just completely ruin the pace of the game, speaking of the pace. They just slow you down. It's just obnoxious. Especially when she can just talk to it like normal, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, I don't get it. I guess they want to delay you from going somewhere too quick so they can get all the dialogue out. I do get that, but it just kind of ruins it. I'd rather have a cutscene or something. Yeah, so we're going to enter this arena, and then we're going to get a little bit of RP. The angels are not happy to see you. You are a Nephilim. You are their enemy. So they are going to attack you. And then after you kill 4 of these birds, you are going to fight the boss. And it's that big dude up there with the shield. Yeah, that's the boss of this section. Now, these angels, their AI, as of patch 1.04, is a little weird. I have had instances where these guys don't actually come down, and like you just sort of wait and run around the room, and eventually they come down. Or sometimes they come down and don't attack you. Very strange. But they attack you 2 by 2. And once you kill the 4th one, the boss drops down. So be on the lookout for him. Here he comes. This is the Angelic Champion. As always, I recommend just popping Havoc for him, getting rid of it, get as much damage as you can out of it. I have no points in Arcane, so the damage is super low, but it gives you a bit of a heal. Now, this boss has a sword and shield, obviously. He can attack you with his shield. However, all of the attacks are dodgeable, so keep that in mind. He has one attack that is especially devastating, where he will go up in the air and he won't like charge his sword, but he will like delay a swing. So be on the lookout for that. Everything else, just watch for either the sword or the shield to glow, and then dodge. I recommend using the Storm Lance. It's just effective if you do forward dodges. I know for a fact in patch 1.05 that there was a change made around your invulnerability frames, or your invincibility frames, while performing an arcane dodge or an arcane counter. So you can't take damage when you're doing an arcane counter hit. So before that change, I would have recommended to do a forward dodge with the Storm Lance and not the whip, because he can knock you out of the air. I'm not sure if that is no longer the case, if you just can't do that at all. So yeah, I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, so it's really just a battle of attrition, as most of these bosses are. He doesn't have a second phase or anything. He does the same attacks every single time, over and over and over. Building up your Wrath is super effective. Can't recommend it enough. Just keep using the Tempest ability, and just keep dodging him. His attacks deal a ton of damage, so it's probably going to take you a few attempts to figure him out. But if you can get good at this fight, then you will also be good at a fight with the essence, with a boss fight for one of the holders of an Essence of a Chosen. So, once the Angelic Champion is down, you will meet Useal, and he will give you Salvation, which is a boomerang, and that's it. And we're going to end this part of the guide here. I know I sort of ended that very abruptly, but that's it. So we don't have any like major story development just yet. Fury has made a deal with Useal to kill Lust and avenge the armies of heaven. So once we find Lust, we do need to kill him. And when we fight Lust, we will have a choice to kill Lust and Useal, or just Lust. I recommend just killing Lust. It's actually a lot easier, and you get a trophy for it. But after you do that, you get an enhancement from Useal when you come back. So that's going to be it for this part of the guide. In the next part, we will go after Lust and complete the Bonelands and get the Forest Hollow, as well as do a little bit of backtracking once we get that. If you've enjoyed this guide, please subscribe to the channel so you get alerted when new ones go live. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave me a comment, and I'll do my best to answer. And that's it. All right, guys. I'll be Johnny Cage. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.